Fine Music Breakfast with Annabelle Drumm.
And the time now is 6 minutes past 8 o'clock here at Fine Music Breakfast. And just looking at the weather. So it's 13 degrees in Sydney and 11 degrees in Penrith. We're looking for a high of 15 degrees today. Lots of rain, good for the grass, good for the farmers. And that will continue on today, possibly heavier towards the coast and medium winds. Tomorrow will be much warmer. It'll go up to 20 degrees, but still a fair amount of rain as well. Now, we often have listings in our arts calendar of shows and concerts being held at the Independent Theatre, which is just down the road from our station here in North Sydney. The venue is famous for its luscious afternoon tea spreads, and you'll often find those provided for the patrons before their concerts. Great chance to relax, have your coffee and tea, one of their amazing cakes, and settle in with your friends for the afternoon before going into the concert. So the Independent Theatre itself has been on the landscape for a long time and is coming up to its 80th anniversary. And in the studio this morning, I have with me a member of the Seabourn Broughton Walford Foundation, which is responsible for renovating this very special theatre and bringing it back to life. So I'd like to welcome here Dr. Carolyn Lowry. Welcome along.
Thank you, Annabelle. It's lovely to be here.
I'm so pleased you are. How did you get involved with the foundation, the Seabourn, Broughton and Walford, isn't it? I forgot to say and, didn't I?
It is, yes. Well, in the early 1990s, I met Dr. Rodney Seabourn, who was a retired psychiatrist and a great lover of theatre. And I learnt that he had saved the Stables Theatre, the old Nimrod in King's Cross, for the Griffin Theatre Company. And he'd come over to North Sydney and he was about to save the Independent Theatre. And my husband and I lived locally and we had a cup of coffee with him. He was a retired psychiatrist and he soon worked out that we were very keen on theatre. And by the end of coffee, my unsuspecting husband was chairman of the Friends of the Independent Theatre yet to be constituted, and I was the honorary secretary, and we're still there.
So from the beginning?
Right from the beginning of the restoration, and it was a joy, Annabelle, because it involved going out for Dr. Seabourn and contacting performing artists who'd played there in the old days, local residents, engaging with the North Sydney Council, with school children, and it was an absolute joy in the 1990s, recruiting volunteers and watching the theatre, which had become very dilapidated, come back to life again, and it was reopened in 1998.
What a marvellous project. Can we just have a look at the foundation before we get on to the theatre as well?
Yes.
So that there seems like, I looked on the website there seems to be so many things that this foundation does. It offers grants and it has awards and
it does.
And has an
it's a
archive.
wide range in assisting the performing arts. It is a lovely charity, and I should pause at this point to say that if one wants to join us, you can become a friend. Dr. Seabourn was keen that it should be open to everybody, so one can become an annual friend for $11 and a life friend for $77.
Oh,
so
wow.
He set it up to save theatre spaces, to attract friends to come and join the projects that he was doing, to assist the performing arts.
I think that's more the key, isn't it? So inexpensive to join as a friend.
That's
that
right.
It's the manpower that he's attracting in rather than the money.
He was, and especially with the restoration project. And he also set up a Rodney Seabourn Playwrights Award so that he would encourage local playwrights. That's an annual award. And there are 2 rounds of annual grants for worthy performing arts projects for groups and individuals who need a little bit of financial help to see their project through to fruition.
Marvellous. Now, you've also got an archive as well as part of the foundation.
That's right. That was the other passion that he had. And he started collecting programs, memorabilia, people's stories from the past. And at one stage I was driving around Sydney getting programs and loading them into the back of my car and taking them. Dr. Seabourn passed away in 2008, but we realised just how important this performing arts collection was. Some of it includes some of the items from the old Wollansky Library that was once located in the Sydney Opera House and then was disbanded. and so much has been given. So we have now relocated to a local venue in Neutral Bay, at 20 Young Street, Neutral Bay. So we are local.
So it's something that people can come and visit?
They can come and visit. They can come if they wish to volunteer and help sort programs, because we have a marvellous collection of programs. But we also have what was rescued from the Marionette Theatre of Australia, puppets. We have a puppet collection and a puppet library. We have a Seabourn library, which is full of theatre books. And that space is large enough. And we also, I must say, Annabelle, we've had a donated baby grand piano. So that space is large enough to allow performing arts groups who can't find accessible, affordable space to rehearse or give small performances, they can do that at the foundation. So we know that although Dr. Seabourn is no longer with us, this is exactly what he would have wanted.
He'll be smiling on it all, won't he?
Would.
That keeps it
and
going.
The incredible coincidence is we realise now that his family home when he was a small child was in Neutral Bay.
Oh,
so
perfect.
somehow it's come full circle.
Yes, lovely. So let's take it back now to the theatre as well and the work that you have done there. So you said it was dilapidated. I'm assuming that you did the physical renovation as well as just sort of stirring
We
people
were
up.
involved in physical renovation, and of course we were able to harness energy from the community. People gave us a tremendous amount of volunteer time, but also our local member Gillian Skinner enabled us to link up with the long-term unemployed and youth unemployed. So there were people who were rehabilitating, bringing their lives together by helping renovate that theatre. And Annabelle, it although we're coming up to its 80th anniversary as the Independent, it was named the Independent in 1939, but it had
What
a
was it
life
before
that, yes. Well, it's interesting because when we researched, we found that some of it is part of the old 1886 tram shed, cable tram shed, or its 1902 extension. We're still trying to work out which, but we notice the brickwork in the present building does relate to a former building. But it was, in 1911, North Sydney Coliseum came, and the whole building, well, there were two theatres. They fashioned two theatres at that spot in Miller Street. One was called the Coliseum Picture Hall, and that is now the Independent. The other, which was larger, became a cinema. But of course, as we know, we've lost many theatres in Sydney, and that one on the right-hand side is now a block of units. And of course, the Independent could have gone the same way had it not been for Dr. Rodney Seabourn in the 1990s coming and
Putting its foot down.
Yes, encouraging so many people to come. And we had a wonderful heritage architect who came as an honorary to help us. People lent us scaffolding, all kinds of things. We went out and got as much as we could for as little as possible, but we finally opened on time and on budget in 1998, and the lights went on again, which was...
what a huge party that would have been.
It was, and so many of the actors who'd been on stage came at that time. And I always remember reading the famous Australian playwright Sumner Locke Elliott said, "In the beginning was Doris, and Doris was the Independent, and the Independent was Doris," because it was Doris Fitton, the legendary actress and artistic director, who moved into that old Vaudeville Hall in 1939, calling it after her independent theatre group, the Independent. She put up a neon sign. She invited the Governor-General. It was going to be the start of a whole new era. But sadly, World War II broke out on that very weekend.
Oh, my goodness.
So she had
Wouldn't that just make you fall on the floor?
a big challenge. Yes, indeed.
Now, you've chosen a lovely little piece of music here for this interview. Why did you choose William Walton for this?
I chose William Walton because he wrote the music for Laurence Olivier's Henry V. Henry V was directed by Doris Fitton at the Independent Theatre in 1952. And would you believe that in 1948, when Doris Fitton had toured from that little theatre in North Sydney around the country. She met Laurence Olivier in the Old Vic Theatre coming the other way. They both met in Adelaide, and audaciously and wonderfully she asked the Old Vic Theatre Company to come to North Sydney, sit in the audience and watch the Australians act, and they did. So Laurence Olivier actually was at the Independent Theatre in the audience.
Isn't that lovely? I don't think his voice is in the overture, but we'll listen to the overture
look
of
forward
that
to it,
one.
Annabelle.
Yes. What a lovely piece of music. And so that was from Henry V, I beg your pardon, the overture by William Walton, the Philharmonia Orchestra with William Walton himself conducting. And in the studio I have with me Dr. Carolyn Lowry, who is talking about the Independent Theatre, and they're having their 80th anniversary. So this is quite an amazing, milestone, really.
Well, it is, because it will be 80 years to the day, or I think it's the day before, because the theatre opened on the 2nd of September 1939. Of course, this Sunday is the 1st of September, so it's the same weekend. And what we're doing, Annabelle, is presenting the very same play that opened the theatre in 1939 as a moved play reading with a very fine cast directed by Arnie Niemi.
Would you like to explain what a moved reading is?
Yes, a moved reading is usually a once-only occasion for the play. The actors have rehearsed, but they may not have learnt the whole play, so they use the book in the hand, which you soon forget because they do it so well. So it will be the only opportunity to see this play again. It was written in the 1930s by Terence Rattigan, and the name of the play is French Without Tears. It's a comedy. We're saying, we know it's Father's Day, so come and remember your father or bring your father, because as you rightly said, there's a wonderful afternoon tea at 2:00, and the play reading will start at 3.
And can we, when we get there, can we learn a little bit more about the foundation and the Actors Benevolent Fund as well?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, because one of the worthy causes that the Foundation supports is the Actors Benevolent Fund that raises money to help actors in distress and elderly actors who need extra funding or extra help. And in the old days, Doris Fitton, when she ran that theatre from 1939 to 1977, she always supported worthy causes like the Actors Benevolent Fund by rattling buckets at the door. And so what we're going to do is have some of the actors standing at the door, maybe not rattling too loudly, but there if our audience wants to contribute to that worthy cause.
It is worthy, indeed, because we know that Centrelink certainly don't necessarily help elderly actors that are in trouble. So
well, not enough.
Not enough, no.
So the theatre has kindly come in with us, and Fenella Jolly at the theatre in Winona School, who now owns the theatre and looks after it and keeps it available for the performing arts and the community. We're in as a partnership here for this wonderful play reading on Sunday.
That's wonderful. Okay, so everyone, you can come along. That's Sunday at 2 p.m. for the afternoon tea, and the show starts at 3 p.m. This first reading ever since from 80 years ago at the Independent Theatre in North Sydney. And you can find out more information about it on the website theindependent.org.au. Carolyn, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks, Annabelle.